Welcome back to Girl Read Your Bible, Sunday School for Adults Who Missed It. I'm Nicole Waltz, your host for this podcast, brought to you by 522gals.com, a website dedicated to personal development and spiritual growth. Go and check it out. And be sure to subscribe to our email list, and so we can send you some insight and updates about products that we have coming. I am very excited about some things we have, especially for the new year. So make sure you check that out and subscribe so that you do not miss a thing. Also, if you could just take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, give us a rating. These things really help the algorithm to push this out to more people so that we can continue reaching more people for Jesus and continue to produce this podcast and help people on their journey and their faith journey and help them grow in their spiritual walk. And I just thank you guys so much for taking the time to tune in as we are continuing the story of Joseph, one of my most favorite people from the Bible. We are starting in Genesis 42 today, and we have already talked about a lot of the life of Joseph and his incredible story of unfairness and his incredible story of he was very faithful in the unfairness, and then God blessed him, and there was so much redemption in his story for all the things that he had suffered. And now we have him elevated to the place of just under Pharaoh. He is nobody's higher than him, than Pharaoh in all of Egypt. And there's a great famine in the land. And so people around Egypt, not just in Egypt, but people all around Egypt are also suffering. And they're coming to Egypt because Egypt has food and grain stored up so that other people can also buy the grain and survive, right? Because he has taken good leadership and wisdom and had preparation. And so as a result, right now, standing before him from where we left off last time, are his brothers, his 10 brothers that betrayed him, that started him on his negative journey here of all the unfair things that happened to him. It started with them. And here are the people who betrayed him standing in front of him. And they bowed down before him looking for grain. And they don't recognize him. They don't know who he is. But he recognizes them immediately. And it is going to be some good stuff today. So we are starting with in chapter 42, verse 7. Joseph recognized his brothers instantly, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. "Where are you from?" he demanded. "From the land of Canaan," they replied. "We have come to buy food." And although Joseph recognized his brothers, they didn't recognize him, and he remembered the dreams he'd had about them for many years. He said to them, so for reference, guys, this isn't the dream where they all bow down before the dream from the very beginning of his story. That's not what it's like. He remembered the dreams he'd had about them from many years before. So I think he's had some time to process all his feelings, and he's gonna mess with them a little bit. He's not just jumping. He didn't just run up and give them a hug and say, "Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you guys." He's going to process through. But he also didn't immediately say, "Oh, these guys, forget it. Throw them in the dungeon. I'm done with them." So we're going to play this out a little bit, showing again Joseph and his incredible wisdom. So let's see what he does. He says to them, "You are spies. You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become." "Oh, no, my lord," they exclaimed. "Your servants have simply come to buy food. We are all brothers and members of the same family. We are honest men, sir. We are not spies." "Yes, you are," Joseph insisted. "You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become." "Sir," they said, there's actually 12 of us, your servants, and we are all brothers of one man living in the land of Canaan, and our youngest brother is back with him." And I'm going to summarize a little bit because his story's so long. But he goes back and forth with them about them being spies, and they're saying no. And he says, "Okay, one of you must go back and get your brother, and I'll keep the rest here in prison, and then we'll find out whether your story is true or not. By the life of Pharaoh, if it turns out that you don't have a younger brother, then I'll know you're spies." So he's really just kind of messing with them, putting a little fear of God into them, because, he's the leader of the whole land. He's the top guy here. So Joseph put them all in prison for 3 days. And on the third day, Joseph said to them, "I'm a God-fearing man. If you do as I say, you will live. If you really are honest men, choose one of your brothers to remain in prison and the rest of you can go home with the grain for your starving families. But you must bring your youngest brother back to me. This will prove that you're telling the truth and not die." To this, they all agreed. And so they went, they're speaking amongst themselves. And they said, "Clearly we are being punished for what we did to Joseph long ago. We saw his anguish when he pleaded for his life, but we wouldn't listen, and that's why we're in this trouble." "And didn't I tell you not to sin against the boy?" Reuben asked. "But you wouldn't listen. And now we have to answer for his blood." Of course, they didn't know that Joseph understood them, for he had been speaking through an interpreter. Now he turned away from them and began to weep because he heard their conversation, because he knew that they remembered him, because they were feeling remorseful about what they did. They hadn't just been cruel and forgotten him, and just it wasn't quite as bad as it could have been, I guess. And so it's caused him to weep because he is a forgiving man full of love, but he's not foolish. So he's still going to keep this charade kind of going for a little bit. Then they chose Simeon from among them and had him tied up right before their eyes. Joseph then ordered his servants to fill the men's sack with grain, but he also gave secret instructions to return each brother's payment to the top of his sack, and he also gave them supplies for their journey home. So the brothers loaded up their donkeys and the grain and headed home. But when they stopped for the night, one of them opened their sack to get grain for his donkey, and he found the money on top of that sack. "Look," he exclaimed to his brothers, "my money has been returned. It's here in my sack." And their hearts sank. Trembling, they said to each other, "What has God done to us?" Because now it looks like they're thieves, and they were already accused of being dishonest men or even spies, which would definitely lead to their imprisonment, possibly even death. So this is pretty scary because they think that this is a mistake that has happened. And of course, that would be terrifying because this guy's already holding one of your other brothers and has already said, "You have to bring your youngest brother back to me." And they know that Jacob is not going to want to let Benjamin go with them on this journey. It's a long journey. It's a dangerous journey. He's really clings to Benjamin because that is the only son he has left from Rachel, his beloved wife. And he's been in mourning for a long time for Joseph. And so I'm sure his relationship with Benjamin is like, crazy attached. So they know how difficult this is going to be. And when they get home, they tell Jacob everything that happened and the whole story, and that they have to bring Benjamin back to the land. I'm going to skip over that because, girl, I know you are reading your Bible for yourself and you're going to read all of the words here because it's a really good story. You really want to read the whole thing here, but I'm going to skip for the sake of some time because it's a long story. That they left, that they had left that they had left Simeon behind in the jail, and that they needed to bring Benjamin next time. And they told him everything that had happened. We're on verse 35. As they emptied out their sacks, there in each man's sack was the bag of money he had paid for the grain. So they thought that just happened to one person on the journey home, but it actually happened to all of them. And they were terrified when they saw the bags of money. And Jacob exclaimed, "You are robbing me of my children. Joseph is gone, Simeon is gone, and now you want to take Benjamin too. Everything is going against me." He's so depressed. Then Reuben said to his father, "You may kill my two sons if I don't bring Benjamin back to you. I'll be responsible for him, and I promise to bring him back." He's swearing an oath that he will protect Benjamin with his life because he understands how Jacob must feel. And he's taking ownership and responsibility for the sin he committed against his brother and his father when they sold Joseph into slavery. And his father believes, of course, that Joseph is dead. But Jacob replied, "My son will not go down with you. His brother Joseph is dead, and he is all I have left." That's bad parenting there, guys. That's really bad parenting because he's standing there with his other sons saying Benjamin's all he has left. He actually has a lot left, but it's just showing again his devotion and favoritism of Benjamin, which isn't right, but that we're reading, not judging. He is all I have left. If anything should happen to him on your journey, you would send this grieving, white-haired man to his grave. So he knows that this is like a really sad, this is a really sad thing in time for him. So obviously Jacob is not having this sending Benjamin back with them. And some time passes. They go through all the grain that they'd had. Now, we don't have a grid for the time, but they've left Simeon in jail this whole time, not knowing what's become of him. And they know they're going to have to go back at some point because there simply wasn't enough food to sustain indefinitely. And so they eventually do come to this where they have very little food, and they're going to their father again. And they're like, we have to go back to Egypt and get more food. And he is whining, grieving and complaining and saying, no, you're not taking my son. And they go back and forth arguing about this. And Judah says, we're in chapter 43, verse 3. But Judah said, the man seriously warned us, if I see you again without your younger brother, that's it. And, if you send Benjamin with us, we will go down and buy more food. And if you don't, then we're all going to die. Like, we're all going to starve to death. And so there's a lot of argument and back and forth. Again, girls, please read this entire story for themselves. Judah says to his father, send him with me and I will personally guarantee his safety. Remember, Reuben had already said that to him. Then if I don't bring him back, let me bear the blame forever. If we hadn't wasted all this time, we could have gone and returned twice by now, which is telling you how long that they've been trying to make their case to their father, and he is not having it. And they're trying to be understanding, but we're getting to the point where our entire families, because remember, they're married and have their own children by now, because he's saying, we're not just going to die. It'll also be our little ones, and you're going to die. And Benjamin, we're all going to starve to death if you don't let this happen. So you really don't have a choice. And eventually Jacob gives in. We're at verse 13. Then take your brother and go back to the man. May God Almighty give you mercy as you go before the man, so that he will release Simeon and let Benjamin return. But if I must lose my children, so be it. He knows there's no other choice at this point. They have to go back for more food, or they'll all die anyway. So the men packed Jacob's gifts. He sent them down. He said, if you got to go, you're at least going to take double the money in all your sacks. You're going to take a lot of gifts. He sent balm, honey, gum, pistachio nuts, almonds. So they had some things to live on, but grain was really important. So he's sending them with a lot of gifts to try to show respect and earn favor, again, because they're trying to earn favor. Oh, this could be a whole good message right here. They're sending gifts out of respect and to try to earn favor, because they don't know that actually they already have favor, because they don't even know who they're going to stand in front of. They don't even know that this is their family, who is got some hurt that he's got to process through, like serious hurt, but he is very forgiving and loving and a God-focused person. And so anyhow, we're going to keep reading because I'm going to get off on a rabbit trail with that one. So the men packed Jacob's gifts and doubled the money and headed off with Benjamin. And they finally arrived in Egypt and presented themselves to Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the manager of his household, these men will eat with me this afternoon. Take them inside the palace. Then slaughter an animal and prepare a big feast. So the man did as Joseph had told him and took them into Joseph's palace. And the brothers were terrified when they saw that they were being taken into Joseph's house. This is because someone put money in our sacks last time we were here. He plans to pretend that we stole it, and then he will seize us and make us slaves and take our donkeys. They're all worried about what repercussions and what this looks like. They'd have no idea what's in store for them. The brothers approached the manager of Joseph's household and spoke to him. Sir, they said, we came to Egypt once before to buy food, but as we were returning home, we stopped for the night and opened our sacks, and then we discovered that Each man's money, the exact amount paid, was on top of his sack. And here it is. We brought it back with us. We also have additional money to buy more food. We have no idea who would put the money back into our sacks. Like they're making sure they're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to prove that they have integrity. Maybe they're learning and growing, but it's definitely out of a place of fear. Relax. Don't be afraid, the household manager told them. Your God, the God of your father, must have put this treasure into your sacks. I know I received your payment. So he's giving God credit. He's saying, hey guys, I know that you paid me. I have that written down. So it must have been your God who did this. See how you find favor? See, sometimes favor comes from unexpected sources, and it's important. See, even this man is like, but it was probably your God. Like in a big picture way, it was. In a smaller picture way, it was Joseph. So in any case, zoom in, zoom out. So they're in Joseph's home, and they are getting ready to have everything taken care of for them, their donkeys, and they're prepared to eat. And they prepared their gifts for Joseph's arrival at noon. And we're at verse 26. When Joseph came home, they gave him the gifts that they had brought him, and then bowed low to the ground before him again, just as God told him would happen in his dream when he was young. After greeting them, he asked, "How is your father? The old man you spoke about, is he still alive?" "Yes," they replied. "Our father, your servant, is alive and well." And they all bowed low again, probably super curious why he cares about their dad. And they still are not putting these pieces together in any way. Then Joseph looked at his brother Benjamin, the son of his own mother. "Is this your youngest brother, the one you told me about?" Joseph asked. "May God be gracious to you, my son." Then Joseph hurried from the room because he was overwhelmed with emotion for his brother. He went into a private room where he broke down and wept. After washing his face, he came back out, keeping himself under control because he's got a whole plan here. He wants to see how this plays out before they know who he is. He doesn't want to reveal that part of himself. He wants to really get to see who these people have become before he decides what will happen next. But he's treating them with kindness and favor from the door, friends, and that's something I don't want you to miss. Joseph was put in this perfect position to gain complete control and complete revenge. I mean, he could have gotten serious revenge on these brothers who put him on this path, who did these terrible things to him. He could have immediately from the door thrown them right in prison with no explanation. He could have just jumped up and said, "You don't even recognize me, Joseph? Your brother that you threw into a pit, now you're coming and bowing before me just as I said. Now off to prison with you." And that would have been it. That's totally how he could have reacted. Of course, he technically could have, but he couldn't have, being the person that we know he is. Not of a person of integrity and love and following God in the way that he does. He actually couldn't react like that. But it's a possibility, right? It was one avenue that we can see many people would have chosen to take, as the people who have most wronged him in his life are standing before him and have come back, standing before him again, got what he wants. He wants to see his brother Benjamin, who did not betray him, who is his full-fledged brother. And so now he's got he's got exactly what he asked for. And he totally could have been like, "Sweet, now I got my good brother with me and the rest of you are out of here." No, he doesn't do any of that. He's showing us what actual forgiveness and redemption looks like. And he's taking his time with it. He's setting up good boundaries. I mean, I think there's a lot of wisdom here as we're talking about forgiveness and on a forgiveness journey, right? He's seeing who they are. He's using this to his advantage and opportunity to get an insight into his family. But deep down, his love has not changed for them. He is setting them up in the palace. They're about to have a meal together, and he's so overwhelmed with emotion. He has to excuse himself from the room so he can regain his composure and finish out his plan, kind of see how this plays out. We are at verse 32. The waiters served Joseph at his own table, and his brothers were served at a separate table. The Egyptians who ate with Joseph sat at their own table because Egyptians despise Hebrews and refused to eat with them. Joseph told each of his brothers where to sit, and to their amazement, he seated them according to age, from oldest to youngest. They didn't know how he knew that. And they're still not figuring it out either. And Joseph filled their plates with food from his own table, giving Benjamin 5 times as much as he gave the others. So they feasted and drank freely with him. They're having a good time. We're moving on to chapter 44. When his brothers were ready to leave, Joseph gave these instructions to his manager: fill each of their sacks with as much grain as they can carry, and put each man's money back into his sack. Then put my personal silver cup at the top of the youngest brother's sack, along with the money for the grain. So the manager did as Joseph instructed him. The brothers were up at dawn and were sent on their journey with their loaded donkeys. But when they had gone only a short distance and were barely out of the city, Joseph said to his palace manager, chase after them and stop them. And when you catch up with them, ask them, why have you repaid my kindness with such evil? And why have you stolen my master's silver cup, which he uses to predict the future? What a wicked thing you have done. When the palace manager caught up with the men, he spoke to them as he had been instructed. What are you talking about? The brothers responded. We are your servants, and we would never do such a thing. Didn't we return the money that we'd found in our sack, and we brought it back to you all the way from the land of Canaan? Why would we steal silver or gold from your master's house? If you find the cup with any of us, let that man die, and all of the rest of us, my lord, will be your slaves, because they're so sure that none of them would do anything like that. Although I think this was still foolish on their part, because somebody put the money back in their sacks last time. So obviously they should be thinking, well, we definitely didn't do it, but let's look and see if we're being framed like maybe last time. No, they're not thinking. They're not good, clear, fully thought out thinkers, because they're just willing to, make an oath and say, oh, none of us did that. And if you find it on one of us, that one can die and the rest of us will be your slaves. That's how confident we are that none of us did this. So the man replied, that's fair. But only the one who stole the cup will be my slave, and the rest of you may go free. They all quickly took their sacks from their backpacks and from their backs of the donkeys and opened them. And the palace manager searched the brother's sack from the oldest to the youngest. So he'd gone through every one of them, because we know it's in Benjamin's. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. And when the brothers saw this, they tore their clothes in despair, and then they loaded their donkeys again and returned to the city. Because remember, they all promised their father they'd protect Benjamin with their lives. Benjamin is the cherished brother. Joseph was still in his palace when Judah and his brothers arrived, and they fell to the ground before him. What have you done? Joseph demanded. Don't you know that a man like me can predict the future? Joseph had been given quite a reputation because he had predicted Pharaoh's dream. So this is something that he is attributing to following the Lord. But I don't want you to get confused about this and think that fortune tellers are okay or a good idea. They're not. This is just something that that's how they would have described that in the culture of which that he is in, that he predicts the future because he can interpret dreams and whatnot. And he has a relationship of prophecy with the Lord. That's a very real thing, friends. So, in any case, Judah answered, "Oh, my Lord, what can we say to you? How can we explain this? How can we prove our innocence? God is punishing us for our sins. My Lord, we have all returned to be your slaves, all of us, not just our brother who has your cup in his sack." "No," Joseph said, "I would never do such a thing. Only the man who stole my cup will be my slave. The rest of you may go home to your father in peace." He's testing them. He's seeing how this plays out. So smart. Then Judah stepped forward and said, "Please, my lord, let your servant say just one word to you. Please do not be angry with me, even though you are as powerful as Pharaoh himself. My lord, previously you asked us, your servants, do you have a father or a brother?" And we responded and said, "Yes, our father is an old man, and his youngest son is a child of his old age. His full brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him very much. And you said to us, bring him here so I can see him with my own eyes. And my lord, the boy cannot leave his father, for his father would die. But you told us, unless your youngest brother comes with you, you will never see my face again. So they wouldn't get any grain. So we returned to you, our father, and told we returned to our father and told him what you had said. And later he finally let us come back with our youngest brother, and they rehashed the whole thing that happened, and that he is going to be devastated. And it was a hard battle to get Benjamin this far. And now, my Lord, we're on verse 30 because I summarized that part. So we skip down to verse 30. And now, my Lord, I cannot go back to my father without the boy. Our father's life is bound up in the boy. And if he sees that the boy is not with us, our father will die. We, your servants, will indeed be responsible for sending that grieving, white-haired man to his grave. My Lord, I guaranteed to my father that I would take care of the boy. I told him, if I do not bring him back, I will bear the blame forever. So please, let me stay here and be a slave instead of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers. For how can I return to my father if the boy is not with me? I could not bear to see the anguish it would cause my father. And so Joseph is seeing in his brothers how they've changed. They weren't anxious to get rid of Benjamin, the favored child, as they were anxious to get rid of him. They wanted to protect his father. They understand the mistakes of their past. They're probably not, they're not all the things that he may wish that they would be, but they're showing remorse. They have admitted to their past crimes, and they are willing to sacrifice their own individual lives or freedom for the sake of their brother and their father. And he's seeing the change, and that's a good thing. So we're going to chapter 45. Joseph could stand it no longer. There were many people in the room, and he said to his attendants, out, all of you. So he was alone with his brothers when he told them who he was. Then he broke down and wept, and he wept so loudly the Egyptians could hear him. And word of it quickly carried throughout Pharaoh's palace. I am Joseph, he said to his brothers. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were speechless. They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing there in front of them. Please come closer, he said to them. So they came closer. And he said again, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. But don't be upset and don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. He understands the whole big picture, that he had to go through what he went through in order to save so many lives in Egypt and the people around them by planning and harvesting the grain properly and having a whole good plan. He recognizes that that God worked all these things out for good, and he is using that knowledge and understanding to forgive them for their acts. This famine that has ravaged the land for 2 years will last 5 more, and there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. And God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and to preserve many survivors. So it was God who sent me here, not you. That's complete, strong forgiveness, friends. I mean, consider that. Consider that, saying that the bad thing that you did to me wasn't really you. God did that and let that happen because he knew it would be for the benefit of the world, really. And so he's telling them, he's giving them complete absolving them. I don't know how to say it correctly. He is giving them complete forgiveness. He's giving them a complete out, absolving them of their crime against him and saying, you know what? It wasn't you. It was God, and he did it for the good of all of us. He did it for the good of our entire family to be saved and preserved ahead of time, and the land of Egypt and many other countries. Now, it was God who sent me here, not you. And He is the one who made me an advisor to Pharaoh, the manager of his entire palace, and the governor of all of Egypt. Because it was God. God took care of it. He had a whole plan. So good. So good. We're on verse 9. Now hurry back to my father and tell him, this is what your son Joseph says. And God has made me the master over all the land of Egypt. So come down to me immediately, and you can live in the region of Goshen. Thank you. Sorry. Goshen, where you can be near me with all of your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds and everything you own, and I will take care of you there. For there are 5 years of famine ahead of us. Otherwise, you and your household and all of your animals will starve. And then Joseph added, look, you can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that I really am Joseph. Go and tell my father of my honored position here in Egypt. Describe for him everything you have seen, and then bring my father here quickly. Weeping with joy, he embraced Benjamin, and Benjamin did the same. Then Joseph kissed each of his brothers and wept over them. And after they had begun talking freely, with him. How incredible of a redemption story is that? He finally reveals who he is, and he just absolves them of their past mistake. He tells them it was God's work, and I forgive you. That we could all be so quick and easy to forgive the people who have wronged us. And like I said, friends, Joseph's life was a whole lot worse off than mine, but he is still quick to forgive and fully forgive. He didn't hold anything back. He didn't hold them responsible in any way. He intends to set their entire family up for generations, for life. He's giving them this whole territory of land in Goshen, and it's going to be really well. So this is, again, another part of the redemption story, because now he's getting his brothers back, and better than before, because now they will love him. They will love him in the way that they hadn't before. And he's shown that so much kindness to them that they don't deserve. And his father is going to be returned to him. I can't imagine Jacob's joy and excitement when he finds out that Joseph is in fact alive and running Egypt and going to save all of them and going to provide them with land and going to make sure that they don't have any more worries during this lengthy famine that we're all in. Incredible. We are on verse 16. The news soon reached Pharaoh's palace. Joseph's brothers have arrived. Pharaoh and his officials were all delighted to hear this. This is important, friends, because I don't know if you know where this story is about to go, but this is the beginning of the Israelites, the Hebrew children, are moving to Egypt. That's what's happening in this story. This is really important because I don't know if you've heard of a really popular guy named Moses, but Moses's whole goal is to get them out of Egypt, because between Joseph and Moses is about 400 years. There's a long period of time, and things are going to start out really well for the Israelites. And the Egyptian people love and appreciate them because they love Joseph, because Joseph saved all of them. Joseph has all the respect from these people, but not the rest of them. They're going to have to earn that. But in any case, this is how God is going to move the Israelites, which Jacob and his family, remember Jacob's name is changed to Israel. That's why they are the Israelites. So all of his children, their children, their children's children, all of that, they're moving into Egypt now because of this famine, because of what happened to Joseph. And that is going to be really important as history plays out. But this is when this is happening. It's such a significant time. I don't want you to miss that. So I think it's like we're all delighted to hear that he had found his family again. They're all like pleased. They're not upset about it. Like this, they're taking it well. I think that's an important thing too. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Tell your brothers, this is what you must do. Load your pack animals and hurry back to the land of Canaan. And then get your father and all of your families and return here to me. And I will give you the very best land in Egypt." and you will eat from the very best that the land produces. So, this isn't just Joseph who came up with this good plan. Pharaoh has his back. Pharaoh hears that he's found his family, and he's like, go get your family. We're giving them the best because of you. Remember that Joseph is highly favored of the Lord and favored in every position he's been put in from the beginning of the story. He keeps getting moved around and bad things keep happening to him. But here he is at the end where just only good things are in the future for Joseph. It's very wonderful. And even Pharaoh says, I'm going to make sure your family's taken care of. So he's totally has his back, and they're all showing respect and love for Joseph's family just because they're Joseph's family. Friends, that's how we're supposed to treat and love one another. Just because we're children of God, just because we share the same faith, we are supposed to love and favor and have each other's back and care about each other because of who we're related to, because favor brings connection, or connection brings favor, however you want to say that. I think that's an incredible thing to really meditate on and think on, Pharaoh had his back from the door. He tells him, take the wagons from the land of Egypt to carry your little children and your wives and bring your father here. And don't worry about your personal belongings, for the best of all of the land of Egypt is yours. Oh, when I talk about a redemption story, I am talking about a redemption story. This one takes the cake. And I love seeing this play out because if God could do it for Joseph, God can do it for you. So the sons of Jacob did as they were told, and Joseph provided them with wagons, and they went back and they got all their things, and they got lots of money. And please read the details. There's a lot of details. It's really cool. So Joseph sent his brothers off as they left, and he called after them, "Don't quarrel about all this along the way." And they left Egypt and returned to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. "Joseph is still alive," they told him, "and he is governor of all of the land of Egypt." And Jacob was stunned at the news. He couldn't believe it. But when they repeated to Jacob everything Joseph had told them, and when he saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to carry him, their father's spirits were lifted. Then Jacob exclaimed, "It must be true. My son must be alive. I must go and see him before I die." Remember, he kept referring to himself as a white-haired man. That meant an old man, right? Like, you get that. So he's coming. He feels like he's coming to the end of the life, and he is going to get to see the son he loves so much and thought had died before he dies. It's such a gift and a blessing, and he acknowledges that. It's such an incredible story. We're in chapter 26. So Jacob set out for Egypt with all of his possessions, and when he came to Beersheba, he offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. During the night, God spoke to him in a vision. "Jacob, Jacob," he called. "Here I am," Jacob replied. I am God, the God of your father," the voice said. "Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make your family into a great nation. I will go down with you to Egypt, and I will bring you back again. You will not die in Egypt, but Joseph will be with you to close your eyes." You will die in Egypt, but Joseph will be with you. He's telling me this is going to be a while. You and your family is going to be in Egypt for a while, but Joseph will be with you in those moments. But remember, he'd promised another land. God had promised another land to his family. So he's saying, you don't be afraid to go to Egypt. We're going to leave the land that I promised you. You're going to go there for a while. You're going to die there, but you're going to be with your beloved son. It's going to be fine. And I'm going to bring your family back out and give you the promised land at some point. It's going to take a while too, friends. It takes a long time. But in any case, this is God reaffirming his promise with the covenant he'd made with Abraham, that he'd renewed with Isaac, that he'd made with Jacob, and is now going to go through the 12 sons, which is the 12 tribes of Israel. So Jacob left Beersheba, and his sons took him to Egypt. They carried him and their little ones and their wives and their wagons in the wagons that Pharaoh had provided for them. And they also took their livestock and all their personal belongings they had acquired in the land of Canaan. So Jacob and his entire family went to Egypt. sons and grandsons, daughters and granddaughters, all of his descendants. There are the names, these are the names of the descendants of Israel, the sons of Jacob, who went to Egypt. And it's going to list a lot of names. Girls, this is important. Please read your Bible, because knowing these names, it carries some weight. It matters today. There are still 12 tribes of Israel, and they still are referenced by these sons' names. So they do hold relevance. But for the sake of time, I'm going to count on you to be reading the Bible for yourself. I am going to summarize and bounce around just a little bit with you guys today. We've gone down to verse 28, where they arrive in Goshen. And it's so good because Joseph prepares his chariot to go down and to meet his father, to see his father Jacob again. And when Joseph arrived, he embraced his father and wept, holding him for a long time. Finally, Jacob said to Joseph, "Now I am ready to die, since I have seen your face again and know that you are still alive." But I want you to know he gets a long time with he gets some time with Joseph. It's not quick, so I want you to know that before we get there. And Joseph said to his brothers and his entire family, "I will go to Pharaoh and tell him, my brother and his entire family have come from the land of Canaan, and these men are shepherds, and they raise livestock, and have brought with them their flocks and herds and everything they own." And then they said, "When Pharaoh calls for you and asks about your occupation, you must tell him, 'We are your servants and have raised livestock all our lives, as our ancestors have always done.' When you tell him this, he will let you live here in the land of Goshen, for the Egyptians despise shepherds." So he's like telling him, this is they kind of look down on you guys, but he is going to favor you and let you live here, and you'll be shepherds here in the land of Goshen, doing what you've always done and being blessed in this territory. Really good stuff. When we're on chapter 47. Then Joseph went to see Pharaoh and told him, "My father and his brother arrived from Canaan, with all their possessions, just like we said." And he asks about their occupation, just like he'd said, and he tells them all the things. Then Joseph brought his father, Jacob, and presented him to Pharaoh. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh. "How old are you?" Pharaoh asked him. And Jacob replied, "I have traveled this earth for 130 hard years, but my life has been short compared to the lives of my ancestors." Then Jacob blessed Pharaoh again before leaving his court. So Joseph assigned the best land of Egypt, the region of Ramses, to his father and his brothers, and they settled them there. And he settled them there, just as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph provided food for his father and brothers in the amounts appropriate to the number of their dependents, including the smallest children. Meanwhile, the famine became so severe that all the food was used up, and the people were starving throughout the land of Egypt and Canaan. And by selling grain to the people, Joseph eventually collected all the money in Egypt and Canaan, and he'd put the money in Pharaoh's treasury. When the people of Egypt and Canaan ran out of money, all the Egyptians came to Joseph. "Our money is gone," they cried. "But please give us food, or we will die before your very eyes." And Joseph replied, "Since your money is gone, bring me your livestock, and I will give you food in exchange for your livestock." And so they brought their livestock to Joseph in exchange for food, in exchange for their horses, flocks of sheep and goats and cattle and donkeys, and Joseph provided them with food for another year. But that year ended, and the next year came again, and they said, "We cannot hide the truth from you, my lord. Our money is gone, our livestock and cattle are yours. We have nothing left to give you but our bodies and our land. Why should we die before your very eyes? Buy us and our land in exchange for food. We offer our land and ourselves as slaves for Pharaoh. Just give us grain so that we may live and not die, and so the land does not become empty and desolate." So Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. This is how landowners shows. This is how kingdoms kind of took over the land rights of everybody. What we're seeing how this plays out. All the Egyptians sold him their fields, and because the famine was so severe, they really didn't have any other choice. They didn't have any way of getting food. And soon all of the land belonged to Pharaoh. As for the people, he made them all slaves, from one end of Egypt to the other. The only land he did not buy was the land belonging to the priests. They received an allotment of food directly from Pharaoh, so they didn't need to sell their land. Then Joseph said to the people, "Look, today I have bought you and your land for Pharaoh. I will provide you with seed that you can plant in the fields, and then you can harvest it, and 1/5 of your crop will belong to Pharaoh." That is how taxes started. That's kind of a high tax there, 20%, you know? But yeah, you plant your crops, and we just want 1/5. You get to keep 4/5 for yourselves. We just want 1/5. And the people are so grateful because they're starving. And this is the really nice plan. They're saying, we'll give you everything. We'll even be slaves. We're going to die if we don't get food. So we'll give you anything if you'll just give us food. And he comes back with like, okay, we own your land now, and we're going to give you seeds, and you're going to go and plant all that stuff, but we're going to let you keep it. We're just going to take 1/5 of it. And, so it's it's like a good plan for Pharaoh. It's a good plan for the wealth and security of Egypt as a kingdom. And the people are celebrating. They're thrilled with this plan because they feel like they were out. They had nothing. So they're happy for 80%. They're happy to give 20% back. That's a sweet deal compared to what they were willing to give up. They're like, well, we're down and out. We just need somebody to take care of us. Remember that, friends, because that's how things play out sometimes in governmental things. It sounds real good. Hey, we're willing to let the government just own us and take care of us as long as you feed us, because otherwise we're going to die. And Joseph comes back with a pretty fair plan that works out a little better than that. He says, okay, well, we own your land, but we're just going to tax you 20% of everything you grow, and you're going to get to keep the rest. So this sounds like a sweet deal compared to just being in indentured servitudes for life. You have saved our lives, they exclaimed. May it please you, my lord, to let us be Pharaoh's servants. And so Joseph then issued a decree still in effect in the land of Egypt that Pharaoh should receive 1/5 of all crops grown on his land. Only the land belonging to the priests had not been given to Pharaoh. Meanwhile, the people of Israel settled in the region of Goshen in Egypt. There they acquired property, and they were fruitful, and their population grew rapidly. Jacob lived 17 years after his arrival in Egypt, so he had lived for 147 years in all. That's so sweet. He got 17 years with the son that he had lost. It was near the end of his life, but he got some time with him, so that was quite a blessing, too. As the time of his death drew near, Jacob called for his son Joseph and said to him, "Please do me this favor. Put your hand on my thigh and swear an oath that you will treat me with unfailing love by honoring this last request. Do not bury me in Egypt. When I die, please take my body out of Egypt and bury me with my ancestors." So Joseph promised, "I will do as you ask." "Swear that you will do it," Jacob insisted. So soon after this, Jacob dies, and Joseph goes to Pharaoh and tells him of his request to not be buried here and to be buried in the land of Canaan. Pharaoh grants him his request, and they all go on this journey, and then they go and they bury Jacob where he'd asked. And please read the whole thing. It's in chapter 50, and they have a period of deep mourning. Lasts 7 days. That's where we still get Shiva, I'm pretty sure. And even the people locally, the Canaanites that saw them, said that this was a place of great mourning for these Egyptians. And then after this time of burying Jacob, they return to Egypt. And so the brothers are pretty worried because now the father's dead. And they think maybe they'd gotten this favor from Joseph because of their father. And now he's gone. And so there's nothing to hold Joseph back from getting his revenge finally. And they're asking for his forgiveness, and they know that they did a cruel thing. But remember, he's kind of already done that. And this is 17 years later. Like, they're still worried about this. So Joseph receives this message that they sent him where they're asking for forgiveness again. And he broke down and wept. That's where we're at. Going down to verse 18. Then his brothers came and threw themselves down before Joseph. Look, we are your slaves, they said. But Joseph replied, this is important. Don't be afraid of me. Am I God that I can punish you? You intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good. That's your takeaway scripture, friends. That's the one you write down. That's the one you cling to. That's our key scripture of the week. I know it took a long time to get to this episode, but that's the one. It is chapter 50, verse 20. You intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position so that I could save the lives of many people. No, don't be afraid. I will continue to take care of you and your children, he reassured them by speaking kindly to them. And that was where true forgiveness and redemption looks like. That's what we can see, the type of person and character that Joseph is, the type of integrity and love, and to be able to forgive it all and to then reassure them. He didn't have a reason to forgive them, but he still did, because he still credited God and said, nope, you intended harm, but God used it for good, so don't even worry about it. God took care of all of us, and we were able to save many people because of this. Go and do better. Go and do better. That's the instructions. And so Joseph is also on this getting old in life, because we're wrapping up the entire book of Genesis here, friends. We've gotten to the end. And he says down in verse 24, soon I will die, but God will surely come to help you and lead you out of the land of Egypt. He will bring you back to the land that he solemnly promised to give Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And then Joseph made the sons of Israel swear an oath, and he said, when God comes to help you and lead you back, you must take my bones with you. So Joseph died at the age of 110, which is considerably younger than his father made it to. The Egyptians embalmed him, and his body was placed in a coffin in Egypt. And they waited for the time that that they would leave and exit Egypt and go on to the land that they were promised. But that won't come for a really long time. And we have made it through the entire book of Genesis in this series. This is entire season 2 is being wrapped up right here of the entire book of Genesis, because now we have quite a long period of time. I'm pretty sure it's 400 years. I'm going to have to double check that, so I'll let you know next time. But we have some period of time, and then we're going to come into Exodus. And Exodus is the story of Moses. The whole thing. It's like a lot. Well, there's several books there, but I think the whole Moses, we get a lot of his story, like a lot of his life from the baby all the way to his death. So we're getting a lot of things in Exodus. And we know we've heard of Moses. We know the 10 Commandments. We've heard of the really popular things. So this is all of the backstory that we have covered before we can get to Moses and the Exodus and leading the people to the promised land that God has always been talking about since the beginning, since Abraham. And so that's the next part of the story. I hope that you have gotten a lot out of Joseph's story. As I told you, he is genuinely one of my most favorite figures from the Bible. There's so much to learn from his character and integrity and faithfulness and his amazing heart to forgive and to be able to see the big picture and say, you know what? God bless the broken road that made sure that everything would work out and that we would all be saved. So even though you intended to harm me, God used it for my good and for your good as well. And I think that his story and his character and his faithfulness is such an incredible inspiration and something that we can grow to emulate and strive for to be more like. I know I'm working on that. So I hope you are too. And until next time, girl, read your Bible. Jacob also bowed before Joseph, just like it happened in his dream. And Jacob is going to lesson, and this is important to the history and current day of Egypt. Of Israel.